2.5 centuries ago, the United States began an experiment in democracy built around a remarkably resilient mechanism of control: one person, one vote. Over a lifetime of watching the political pendulum swing, it's clear we have usually managed to stay united despite deep differences. Yet today, the nation feels deeply fractured. Driving this fracture is a strenuous, exhausting debate about what freedom actually means. We are tempted to think of freedom as an absolute license, a right to do exactly as we please, without any restriction or obligation to the people around us. But look at the original intent of our Constitution. The emphasis sits on we the people, a design rooted in collective governance and mutual consent, not a collection of individuals acting in isolation. When we treat freedom as a license to ignore our shared responsibilities, we stop tending to the democratic machinery of oversight. This apathy creates a vacuum, allowing subtler, quieter forces to move in and bypass the consent of the governed. Our government is democratic, relying on the consent of the governed, but our economic system is capitalist, which has no built-in mandate to prioritize the well-being of the community. Capitalism, by its very nature, is solely about building wealth. Through everyday consumer spending, corporations heavily increase their stock value, creating immense financial fortunes that simply compound and stay at the very peak rather than returning to those who need it most. When those dollars accumulate so heavily at the top, they inevitably start buying political influence through aggressive lobbying and campaign finance. Data from a landmark Princeton study on policy impact shows ordinary citizens have a near zero effect on public policy, while the influence of economic elites remains dominant. This confirms what citizens already feel. Their ability to influence their own governance is being actively erased. We are heading toward a society governed by the tyranny of private interests. Policy is leveraged to further personal fortunes, leaving the broader public to pay the bill, while those in power use private police forces to forcefully enforce their will, beholden only to a balance sheet. Allowing extreme wealth to dictate policy actively replaces our self-governance with a financial autocracy. That same mindset of absolute individual license spills over into our social spheres. It turns politics into a bitter, tribal zero-sum game. Our system was designed to balance two competing forces: majority rule, tempered by the strict protection of minority rights. Feelings always run deep when abstract principles clash with real-world biology and tradition. It makes defining the practical boundaries of equality incredibly difficult. You see this tension in the intense public debate over whether a transgender woman with male-developed musculature should be allowed to compete in women's sports. These are deeply challenging issues, but they must be systematically weighed and settled through our institutions, where justice is blind to absolute partisan demands. If we define equality strictly by what the powerful desire, or whom they choose to exclude, we break the required balance of majority and minority rights. Freedom is not a permanent, passive guarantee. It is a continuous negotiation between our individual rights and our collective survival. For the system to actually function, we have to rely on the social contract. Our individual desires must eventually align with our collective aspirations. Demanding absolute freedom without accepting our shared collective responsibility replaces a functioning democracy with anarchy, dismantling the system from within. Every citizen carries a duty to maintain national unity. That means trusting the democratic process and moving forward together, even when your specific side loses a vote. We either move forward together, or we do not move at all. As Abraham Lincoln warned long ago, a house divided against itself cannot stand.